Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today you join me at Penn's Landing here in the city of Philadelphia. Very important historic site because this is where William Penn first arrived. Not too far away is the old city, the oldest part of the city. But the reason why we came here today is because I'm testing out the Rolex Explorer 2. You guys know the Explorer 1. I don't really like referring it to as the Explorer 1, but it is my favorite watch, so long overdue that I take a look at this particular model. Now, what's the connection between Penn's Landing and the Explorer 2? Well, the original settlers here, they actually made rudimentary kind of cave dwellings in the side of the shores here as a form of natural shelter. And there are no caves here in Philadelphia, but I thought, you know what, that's the closest we're going to get to one. Of course, the Explorer 2 was specifically designed for cave or subterranean exploration. So yeah, that a bit of a tenuous connection, but anyway, we're here, we're going to walk around, I'm going to get to know this watch and talk about it. So yeah, let's get on with it. H, can we take a little swan boat?
Ain't happening.
Come on, I got 100 meters water resistance.
We have cameras across the car, so.
Oh come on, it would look so good. We could use it as a thumbnail. No?
Absolutely not.
I'm trying here. I'm trying. Oh well. So this is the shot I'm trying to get, like, you know, these cute little swans with a battleship behind it. The Explorer 2 has an interesting story, as it is one of repeated failures that ends in a happy ending with a hard-earned success that very much demonstrates the fortitude of the brand, technical skill, and the marketing genius that is Rolex. If you have followed the channel, you'll have heard me discuss the history of the original Explorer at great length, how it was spawned following an oyster perpetual made famous by Sir Edmund Hillary's expedition on Mount Everest in 1953. What followed was a golden age of clean, functional design that was the legendary 1016 and all its various incarnations. Aside from the inevitable movement upgrades and subtle refinements of the dial, it would not be until the 1970s that Rolex would attempt making a rightful successor. What caused this trepidation on Rolex's part was a failed attempt to rebrand the original Explorer 1016 into the Space Dweller in the early 60s. This was tested on the Japanese market exclusively with a very small batch created after the 1963 visit to Japan by astronauts of Project Mercury. The result was one of the rarest Explorer models ever created, but with poor sales, this attempt to cash in on the space age hype of the day failed miserably. However, as is so often the case with Rolex, these highly obscure rarities are now worth big bucks indeed. Okay, so a little bit of a history lesson. If I can remember correctly, the date William Penn landed was 1682, right? Okay, yes, nailed it. That's the, whoa, hold on. Oh, I had it. Benjamin Franklin, yes, all right. Okay, and for bonus, Walt Whitman? Oh man, I'm on a roll today. So, and that's the battleship New Jersey. And actually, funny enough, that is New Jersey behind us. So the river actually acts as a, and this is the Delaware River, by the way. I should have said that at the beginning, but anyway, yeah, it kind of acts as like the border between the two states. So a little bit of, there we go, we're learning geography as we're exploring. Very nice, yeah. What was Rolex to do? How would they reinvent this particular wheel? Well, the answer was not in the stars above the mountains, but rather the caves beneath them. Rolex decided the answer was to create something dramatically different and abandoned their more lofty ambitions in order to create a watch for cave exploration instead. And so, in 1971, they unveiled the first Explorer 2. The inaugural reference was the 1655. Sporting a larger 39mm stainless steel case, compared to the 36mm of the 1016, and complemented again with a matching oyster-style steel bracelet. The dial was radically but cleverly redesigned with the 24-hour markers to correspond with its biggest upgrade, the addition of a 24-hour complication. But unlike the bi-rotating bezel of the GMT Master Pilot watches, the bezel was fixed in order to avoid any confusion. After all, it was highly unlikely that a cave expedition would cross time zones on foot, no matter how much they got lost down there. The emphasis was obviously on legibility during exploration in the darkness of the subterranean world. The 24-hour function here being more about the indication of day or night rather than the second time zone, and for extra clarity, a date at the traditional 3 o'clock was also present. The handset was also changed to something off-brand and rather modern. Rolex opted for a baton style that was highly prevalent in this era, along with a bright orange arrow for the new fourth hand. Sadly, however, sales were poor, and despite the lengthy run from 1971 to 85, it was one of the least popular Rolexes. But just like before, this quirky style product of the 70s would go on to be highly desired by collectors in the decades that followed. This is a World War II era submarine, and all the names of everybody that served in it. It's quite moving, to be honest. But it's a museum as well, so that's pretty cool. You can actually go in it. We should have shot the Tudor instead of that little rowboat in Central Park. I should have come and shot it here. It would have been much more fitting. But anyway, we're here nonetheless. So now we enter the third chapter of reinvention for the Explorer 2. In 1985, we saw the introduction of the 16550, which at a glance is easily mistakable for our very own 16570 we are reviewing today. Everything once again changed. The 1575 caliber of the previous 1655 was upgraded to the newer 3085. Incidentally, this was the first in-house Rolex mechanism to feature an independently adjustable 24-hour hand. The dial became simplified with a diver-style layout of applied tritium lume-filled triangles and circle markers for orientation. To mimic the successful selling design of the GMT Masters, the hands returned to Mercedes, and the fourth GMT hand was made red, longer and thinner. The priority here was to create a watch that was restrained, more conservative, and therefore more fundamentally Rolex in its tool design language. The engraved brushed bezel was simplified to numerals and smaller triangles for a quicker interpretation at a glance. To further secure a chance of success, Rolex made a white matte dial version also available, contrasting the markers by framing them in black with the corresponding blacked out hands. This eventually became known as the Polar Explorer and would continue to be part of the lineup thereafter. In many ways, its white dial is even more fitting to bear the mountain climbing, cave conquering Explorer name. The ever-reliable steel oyster case with the twin-lock screw-down crown, 100 meters water resistance, a stamped micro-adjustable clasp and oyster bracelet would remain largely unchanged in all references until the next big change in 2011. Okay, so behind me is the Jupiter. It's actually the oldest, still functioning to this day, tugboat in Philadelphia. Interestingly, a little bit of home here. They brought it here in 1939 before it was operating in New York City, and I think it was built in 1902. So 120 years this boat has been doing its thing. It's crazy. Almost as good as some watches that are still going, but anyway. In 1981, our beloved reference, the 16570, came into existence and is arguably the quintessential Explorer 2. Well, at least in my opinion anyway. Remaining aesthetically the same as its predecessor, Rolex and their renowned commitments to constantly improving their watches concentrated not on refining the look or luxurious qualities, but on performance. The applied markers being framed by white gold compared to steel to last longer against tarnishing is a prime example of this thinking. The new Aluminova ensured better low light efficiency, and the glass finally became scratch-resistant sapphire. Inside, Rolex added the highly robust automatic caliber 3185, respected for its dependable accuracy and toughness. This 31 jewel COSC certified performer, operating at the brand's signature 28,800 vibrations an hour, had a healthy power reserve of 50 hours. Later, it was succeeded and improved by the 3186 in 2006. The anti-magnetic Niverox hairspring became the superior Parachrome, and the wobble of the GMT hand during its quick-set procedure was addressed. In fact, it's a good way of telling what caliber your 16570 actually has inside. Around this time, the Swiss manufacturer started to cooperate with record-holding adventurers, where chronometers could be tested under extreme natural conditions, quite literally out in the field. Simultaneously, Rolex dedicated itself to pioneering new metal technologies. The 3185 uses a balance wheel made from glucidur, a special alloy that is paramagnetic and resists expansion in extreme temperature variations. This, along with the Paraflex shock absorbers and its no-nonsense design, both internal and external, would ensure the 16570 would go on to endure for a staggering 22 years. So I'm trying to decide, Harrison, which one do you like most?
Yellow duck.
Yellow duck. I think the dragon gets my vote. It's a little bit more aggressive. But you know what? The flamingo is rather pimpish as well. So, is pimpish even a word?
Now it is.
Now it is. There we go. Hey! The 16570 was eventually replaced by the current oversized contemporaries in 2011. However, it still remains one of the best bang-per-buck Rolexes and competitively priced thanks to its plentiful supply. Sales were initially quite slow, but recently watch enthusiasts in particular have started to realize just how wonderful this particular reference is, and is often overlooked, particularly when in comparison to the most successful selling Rolexes like the Submariners, the GMTs, and your Datejusts. The reason is mainly due to the subtlety of its design. The Explorer 2, in particular this reference I am reviewing, embodies so many attributes that are, without a shadow of doubt, the best of Rolex, but free of the over-embellishment and devoid of any luxury pretension. Nobody can ever say it was anything other than good taste, and just like my favourite watch of all time that preceded it, it's an outstanding marriage of form and dependable function that is undeniably pure class. Wow, it's amazingly hot here. But anyway, I guess we should start with positives first. Well, the first thing I have to say about this, it's one of those do-it-all watches. You've got some really compelling, useful complications. I've talked many times about the GMT, especially if you're like me, or you're traveling or you have family all over the world. It's so practical, just at a glance. So it has that, as well as the date, and of course it being COSC. You've got the inherent reliability and solid robustness that goes part and parcel with Rolex. Not only the performance and ruggedness, I guess you could say, but there's dependability also in the value. There was a time when this watch was, one of the most actually accessible. Prices are going up. Advantages you have over the Explorer 1, you have actually got a choice of dial colors. Yes, I know there was a polar, there was a white dial 1016 way back in the day, but at least you have a choice of white or black. And now with the larger ones, you can go to the 42mm, which actually wears more like a 44, to be honest. So you do have a little bit more choice than your first original Explorers. With the Explorer 2, it is a certified strap monster. It looks great for some reason on rubber straps, in my opinion, on a NATO, or just the ever reliable oyster bracelet there. So yeah, it's versatile in that regard. Something I really do like about this particular reference, it's a sweet spot between the vintage, that a little bit smaller, a bit more kind of, you know, with jingly jangly bracelets. It's a little bit more solid than that, and the newer gargantuan modern version, the 40mm size. I mean, it suits small and medium wrists, and arguably the larger too. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I think I'm gonna actually come back here with some of the food that we got in the market from last time. I think this would be a beautiful spot just to get some sun, enjoy the view. Yeah, and it's quiet. There's not that many people here, so So, you join me here at the Vietnam War Memorial. I don't know why, it's a kind of sobering place to come and reflect. Yeah, let's go back to watches. Anyway, so the negatives. Well, I've deliberately brought with me my Explorer. I have a little confession. This is actually not my Explorer. I left mine in Queens like an idiot. So thanks to Watchbox, both of these are in their inventory. I'll leave the links down below, so if you are interested, obviously. As you guys know, and if you're not familiar with the channel, this is my favorite watch of all time. So it was inevitable that I was going to talk about this at some point, and I did talk about the Explorer 2 when I did the history of this particular watch, the original Explorer. But the biggest negative for me has to be that what I love about this is that it's discreet. You haven't got the Cyclops like you have in the Rolex Explorer 2. Yes, it has less complications, but there is a positive to that. And if you recall from that video, I said how, you know, it's a less complicated timepiece, obviously mechanically, so less chance of things going wrong. Not the biggest negative, but its simplicity is what I adore about the Explorer. Well, one of the many things, you know, I have talked about it to death, so I'm not going to go over it too much. And that simplicity makes it a lot more versatile. This I find a little bit more, well, this word doesn't exist, but tool-tastic. It's built, feels more built for purpose, so to speak. Whereas this, you know, as we saw, Fleming used to wear his on the bracelet, but I've seen the vintage models look amazing on the strap. This, you know, I put it on the NATO. Not that you can't do it with this, but I just feel this is more of an all-rounder. One major criticism you could say is that this perhaps lacks a certain amount of pizzazz, and in fact, actually, that's why it put me off for so long. It's not until I really wore this watch and I got to know this watch. It has a slow release charm, if that makes any sense. And I think probably the same is likely with this. But you know what I wish? I wish there was some of that pizzazz that came with the 1655, the Steve McQueen. It was very 70s inspired, and I think it had a lot more personality. Certainly something that maybe this lacks a little bit of. To be honest, that's all I've got for the negatives. There really isn't that many negatives. I mean, apart from being less discreet, and you know, the Cyclops announces its presence as being a Rolex, which is something I do enjoy about this. You haven't got that stigma. I feel I can wear this. Oh, sorry, I just realized I did that. Sorry. Is that bad? This stone is so hot. I feel like my derriere is on fire. Derriere. I'm trying not to say. Derriere. I think it's French. The etymology is French. If you guys know the etymology of the word derriere, please do share in the comments. No, seriously, that's all I've got. My derriere is on fire. I'm going to leave it there for the negatives. Okay guys, so I'm going to leave it there. It's a hard life. No, but seriously, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to add your thoughts, queries, comments, opinions, all the rest of it down below. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. And as always guys, if I can be bothered to get up, I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao. Now before I go guys, I just want to quickly tell you about this extremely cool app that Watchbox have launched. This is my own personal go-to app for everything watch related. Using the app, you can keep track of the real-time value of your watch collection. You can store watches in your digital watch box and even try on watches using an augmented reality. So don't miss out and please go to the App Store and download it today. You can access all of my latest videos right there in the app itself. And if you haven't already, please follow me on the official Urban Gentry Instagram and of course the Facebook UGWC. But most importantly of all, keep it positive, onwards and upwards.